Ready? 3, 2, 1. Right chaps, this week is a bit of a break from our standard Land Rover content. This week we're going to be back working on the Cummins swap limo. Now, if you watched our road trip series, which I hope you did, you would have seen we had 1 or 2 issues, mainly with the cheap parts I bought. So what we're going to do, first thing today, is correct some of those issues. Then, I've got a little performance meter, so what we're going to do is go ahead and take the car out, do a quick baseline performance test, and bring it back in. I'm going to make a couple little modifications, which I hope are going to make a drastic difference. So first things first, we got ourselves 2 new electric fans here. Now, these 2 paired together cost me more than £5, which should be a drastic improvement over what's currently in the car. I've also got myself a nice Bosch stock solenoid. That was £30 instead of the £5 one that I bought, put in the car, and it broke. So we're going to get those on the car, and then we'll take it out for a bit of a spin. As you can see, this is what's left of our original cooling fan. Now, when we first built the car, we had 2 of these on here. The first one broke before it even left the workshop, and this one fell apart going up the Stelvio Pass. They were about £5 each, so it's kind of my fault. These are our new fans. Now, these are Durenza fans. Had some quite good luck with these in the past. They're a good mid-range fan. And all we're going to be doing with these is just using these fan ties to tie them to the radiator. Now, normally on a high-performance build, you'd make up a full shroud so it's sucking in across the whole radiator. This car does not struggle with cooling at all when the fans are working because the engine is very underworked. Right, so the fans and stop solenoid are in now. The fans are hiding down there. Lovely. Now, another job I thought we'd take care of is trying to get the power steering working. Now, if you've been watching the build videos, you'll know we fit the power steering pump, an electronic one, and it worked brilliantly for about 30 seconds, and then it pissed oil out everywhere. And it was leaking out of this. So this is the steering box, which I've just removed from the car, and it was flying out of this part of the steering box here, which is where the steering column goes into. I've got myself a little rebuild kit somewhere over here, this one, and what we're going to have a go at doing is just chucking some new seals in this. I don't know where all of that goes, but I'm sure it will become remarkably clear as I start stripping it down, and yeah, hopefully then it will retain at least some of the oil we put into it and work a lot better, because I say we did 2,500 miles Stelvio Pass all the way up through the Alps without power steering, and I now have a right arm of a 62-year-old. So let's crack into this and see if we can get this fixed. So I got the box all stripped down here, and I'm just trying to clean things up. So our main culprit was this piece here. So there's 2 little seals that go in here. That one slides down in here, and then this one goes on top of it, and then this shaft sticks up through it. Now these have gone very old and hard and nasty, so we're going to replace those with these 2 here, which feel a little bit better, and hopefully that will solve it. We've then got a few other seals and bits. I'm not convinced this is... we have a bit of an intruder here. We've got a few other bits to go in it, but I'm not convinced this is actually for the correct steering box because I can't really see where all those seals go. New seals in, whoosh. Fresh set of seals in there. Okay, so that's all back together now. I need to take this arm off and I'll put that all on properly in the car because I can't remember which way that went on. So we'll do that later on. We've naturally got a number of spare parts, which is always the sign of a good and true rebuild. So what we'll do is go ahead, chuck that back in the car, put the arm on, and then we should be able to have a look and see if that's worked. I did also leave the ignition on for about 2 weeks, so battery's a little bit flat. Hopefully that's not ruined. Unfortunately, we have to do it with this little hand pump here because some madman with a mullet decided to install the power steering pump without the bonnet in place. And then when you put the bonnet in place, you can't put a bottle in the power steering pump. Clumsy. Okay, should all be connected up now. So if we flick that on. Yes. It's beginning. The oil's disappearing. Oil. Feeding it with oil. This is a little bit steady, this hand pump, I will admit. Right, managed to get it somewhat full, and it's running, and there doesn't appear to be any major drippage. What we'll do is just quickly try and turn the steering wheel, see if... Oh, it's working. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's put it all back together, put it down on the floor, and then we can take it out, try out our newfound power steering, and give it a quick power test. Okay then, let's awaken the beast, see how she fares. We have a stop solenoid in now, so we should be able to switch it on and off, which would be cool. Beautiful. Oh yeah. Bit of air in there still, but it's working. No massive fluid leaks, that's good. Still all in there. Fantastic. Right. So we're here at a top secret undisclosed location. Now what we're going to be using to measure our performance is this little box here. So this is a Dragy, and this is like a GPS tracker. And what this is going to do is give us all sorts of metrics. It links to your phone, it's also magnetic by the looks of it. And it gives you 0 to 60 times, gives you 8 mile times, gives you quarter mile times. So what we're going to do is probably run it out to the quarter mile. It's connected up to this phone here. Gives you all those sort of metrics there. And see how she performs. Now it's set up exactly how it was on our trip, and I'm convinced there's a lot more left in her. The throttle pedal doesn't feel like we're getting full throw on it, and we've got a few other little tricks up our sleeve, but let's see what it does as a baseline test. Now I've never actually been drag racing before, but I've watched enough to know that before you do your drag race, you're meant to do a big burnout to warm your tyres up, get them nice and sticky, and in today's case, probably dry them off. Right, try it in second. Second might be too much. Try it first. Brilliant. Oh, we had 2 wheels for a little bit. Good news. Right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Get it through the gears here. Come on. Gotta keep it loaded up to make any moves. Calm down. Woo! 19.74 seconds. Is that good? I don't know. Doesn't sound that great. Let's run it back the other way, and then we'll go home and do some improvements. So, the power steering pump lasted, well, the pump still worked. Power steering box lasted about 2 minutes, and it's shattered its seals out again. So, at the end of the episode, I'll explain why I'm not too bothered about that, because we have got a plan for the future. This was just hopefully a temporary fix, but it is a bit of a pain without power steering, and once you've had it, quite upsetting to let it go. Right then, here we go. Right, we're back in the workshop now, ready to do our little upgrades. Now, I was thinking about what I'd say now, and I was going to come in front of you and stand here and say, it was okay, but it wasn't that great, we're not going to set any records with that sort of power. However, unless anyone else can correct me, sat right there is the world's fastest and the world's quickest Cummins swapped Daimler DS420 limousine. I think we have just set a world record, and what we're going to do in the second half of the video is try and beat it. Now you'll notice I've got the whiteboard back, and that's because I'm about to try and get into a little bit of detail on the modifications we're going to make and explain to you as best I can what we're trying to do. So if you just want to see us rip laps and do skids, skip forward a little bit, but if you want to hear a Devonshire man try and explain some physics, stick around. So we're going to be changing and modifying 3 major things. So the first one doesn't require much explaining. So I believe that the lever on the pedal end of our throttle cable setup is too short, which means it's not pulling the throttle all the way on the pump, which means that at higher RPMs, our pump is defueling early. So we're going to extend and modify our throttle pedal to try and give us full throttle. That's fairly straightforward. The next 2 things we're going to do, one is to do with this little part here, and the next bit is going to be a little adjustment on the pump. Ta-da! So, before we dig into what we're actually changing, let's get a little bit of an understanding of what's actually happening in an engine and why this stuff is important. 2 things we need to understand. Firstly, fuel does not explode in an engine, fuel burns in an engine. If fuel explodes in an engine, bad things happen. And secondly, fuel takes time or crank angle to inject into an engine. So it's not an instantaneous process. Both of these processes take time. We then need to understand that there is an ideal time for that fuel to burn in that piston, in that cylinder, to get the most power out of it. Now I know this looks like a nipple, but I promise you it's not. If we say this is the absolute ideal time for power for our fuel to be burning at, we're going to start injecting somewhere here, the crank's going to continue to rotate, it's going to start burning, and then it's going to continue burning as the sort of piston's going down over this side. Okay, now we've already done a few mods to this engine. So we have increased the amount of fuel using the max fuel screw, and we've increased the size of the injectors. Now, increasing the size of the injectors means you can get more fuel in a smaller period of time. So we've done something like this, let's say. So that is standard fueling, but with bigger injectors. Let me use a different coloured pen here. What I also said is that we've increased the fueling using the max fuel screw. Now, a common misconception is that the max fuel screw can increase the amount of fuel in a set period of time. That's not how it works. The max fuel screw allows the pump to inject for longer. So it does inject more fuel, but it injects it over a longer period of time. So what that makes our curve look like, it's something up like this, and then we extend it over this side and down. This is not to scale, obviously. But then what that means is our ideal burn point is here, but we're injecting further past that as well. That means two things. One, we're not making as much power, and also we are putting a lot of heat into the exhaust, into the valves, pushing and wasting energy out the backside of the engine because this fuel is not being utilised properly. What we can do to counteract that is adjust our base timing. So we adjust our base timing by either rocking the pump slightly one way or the other, or by physically moving it a tooth round on one of the gears that drive the pump. Now in our case, what we want to do is try and advance the timing on the pump. And what that will do to our fuel curve here is it will start this injection cycle earlier. So we'll then bring our injection event, we'll then start our injection event back here somewhere instead, and it will go up like that and then come down this side, which then puts that optimal point for power back in the middle of our curve. Right, now we've talked about base timing, let's try and talk about dynamic timing. So base timing is what the fuel pump timing and the fuel injection timing is going to be at idle RPM. Now, as we know, engines don't always stay at idle RPM and they can move around, especially ones in cars. But as we discussed earlier, fuel takes time to burn. So as we increase the speed of the engine, we increase the speed at which that piston is moving up and down, which means it has less time in this optimal range here for that fuel to burn. So what we want to do is, as the engine RPM increases, we want to get that fuel in earlier so it's still got time to ignite and burn in that optimal stroke of the piston. Now the fuel pump already does that for us. So as engine RPM increases, the fuel pump gradually advances the injection timing by a few degrees for each RPM, and that keeps us making power and the engine running efficiently and smooth all the way up through the RPM range. Now what we're going to be doing to our fuel pump is allowing the fuel pump to give more timing advance, which is where this spacer comes in. So it's limited by a little plate normally on the side of the pump, and when it gets to a certain amount of timing advance, it hits that plate and it won't move any further. Why we want more timing advance is because we've changed the governor spring in our pump. So we've gone from a 2,500 RPM governor spring to a 3,200 RPM governor spring. So that's given us 700 more usable RPM, but that means that we need more timing advance at those top RPMs to keep the engine running cool and efficiently. Right, so I hope that waffle kind of made sense. But essentially what we're trying to do is use these little adjustments to eke every last bit out of our engine and the mods we've already made. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make these mods, fix our throttle cable or throttle pedal. Once those mods are done, we'll take her back up to the racetrack and see if we've made any improvement. To adjust the base timing on the pump, to advance it, we need to undo the 3 bolts that hold the pump to the timing case. We can then rotate the top of the pump towards the cylinder head, and that will advance our timing. We'll do that by, it's normally like 1/8 of an inch you do, and that will just give us a nice little bump. Now to do our dynamic timing, down there is our sort of timing advance for the cold start. That's got solenoid on it. What we need to do is take that off and put our little spacer in behind there. So what I'm going to do to begin with is take this boost pipe out of the way, this charge pipe, and take the coolant header tank out of the way. That'll give me a bit more room for activities. We'll also take the throttle cable off, get all this area cleared out, and then we can get into it. Right, well I got the cold start solenoid unbolted off the side of the pump. Unfortunately the bolts are a bit sticky, so I had to use the electronic screwdriver. Right, so I'm just checking our throttle pedal here. So I've got the throttle wedged all the way down like that with a lovely snap-on foot. And what we will do now is go to the pump. and see if we've got full movement. So that is all the way full throttle. And we are pretty close. Only a tiny bit more there. Like it bloody well grew there. Yeah, mint. So then, we're back up at our top secret off-road test facility and we've completed the mods on the car. So we've lengthened the actuator on the throttle pedal. We've increased the base timing. We've added a dynamic timing spacer and given it just a general once over. I didn't go and adjust anything else, so I haven't been and adjusted the fueling or the boost. So we're just gonna leave those as standard for this test. Now, what I can say is from my butt dyno on the way up here, it feels very different. So the engine sounds much more aggressive. It's a bit knockier at the lower RPMs where there's sort of diesely knocky sound, bit naily, and it feels much more responsive. So what we'll do now is do a couple of runs up and down and see how she performs. Right then, we're all set up, so we'll just reverse back here into position and give her a go. I don't know if you can hear it on camera, but the engine is definitely a little bit clackier, to use a physics term. It's better now it's warmed up, but she was noisy when it was cold. Oh, I've actually just crashed there. That was silly. Right, I'm now out of the hedge. So then, quick burnout and then we'll see how she goes. Yeah, that definitely feels peppier. Tyres are warm, engine is warm, track is clear, Dragy is set. Let's let her have it. Hang on. Let's go. Woo! Oh yeah, it's definitely faster. Woo! That's flat chat. Oh my good God. Oh yeah. Oh, she's faster. Christ on a bike. Oh, he knocked a second off the quarter mile time. Nice. Right, turn around and give her a go the other way. Right then, we reset. Let's go. It definitely pulls harder. You do. Oh, I hate this bit. Fuck me. God, it gets a bit sketchy on the shutdown. 17.59. Oh yeah. She's a speed machine. Right then, let's have a look at these results, shall we? Right, so we have a look at the scores on the doors here. So this is today with the mods. This is pre-mod. So we've managed to cut off, if you look there, The best run from pre-modded was 19.38 seconds. The best run from today was 17.59. So by my maths, that's about 10 seconds difference. Right, well I think it's safe to say those couple little mods are worth doing. Right chaps, well I hope you enjoyed that little update on the Daimler and just having a bit of fun with it. Now, what we're going to be doing with Dragy we've got is I think we ought to set up a leaderboard in the workshop, and not only can we pit every car we own against each other, we can also see them progress and improve as we go on. Now, with the limousine, I hope you sort of enjoy watching these episodes with it. The long-term plan with it is we are gonna keep it around. We're probably going to go through the chassis a bit. I think we're going to plan to put a different subframe underneath the front of it to give us a steering rack and solve our power steering issues. And engine-wise, there's a few more little tricks and things we can do with our setup currently, but if we want to take it much further, we are going to have to look into a different pump and turbo setup. But in the meantime, I think we're going to put it away for a little while, but when it comes back out, we're likely going to be going right through it to just get everything into a bit of a fine fettle. And then when she's upright, we might go out and do a few shows and events with her through the spring and the summer, and then I'm sure another road trip towards the end of the year. So look out for that. But for now, we're going to take her back to the workshop and pack her away and let her rest until we really dig into her. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again next week.